Survive history or be history. This is Sega Masters. Looks like these two guys are ready for action. Today we're looking at Time Soldiers, the third commando-style run-and gun to grace the Master System, following the Ninja and Rambo. Only this one is a conversion of an arcade title by none other than SNK. That's right, another big-time coin-op manufacturer finally gets represented on the Master System, even though it's not one of their more well-known titles. The card opens with this quick intro where you and your partner witness your fellow Time Soldiers getting transformed into energy balls by the evil warlord Guyland and sent spiraling into the past. Not surprisingly, you have to travel through time in order to find and rescue your comrades before you take on the evil Guyland himself. And you can either take this mission on by yourself, or recruit a buddy to battle alongside you through 5 different time zones. Developed by Alpha Denshi for SNK, Time Soldiers first appeared in the gaming halls in 1987 and was another in the company's lengthy line of vertically scrolling shoot-em-ups, which was the bread and butter in the days before the Neo Geo. It can best be described as a time-traveling version of SNK's earlier blockbuster hit Ikari Warriors, with very similar run-and-gun gameplay and even an identical control scheme, right down to the rotary joystick. The only real difference is, instead of gunning down endless waves of soldiers in a generic jungle, you're battling various foes in different time periods. The always reliable time travel trope. Like many of the arcade publishers at the time, SNK was eager to bring their stable of coin-op titles to their ever-growing home market. And like most of those companies, they cast their lots with Nintendo and essentially reserved their main hits for conversion to the top-selling NES. That of course meant if Sega wanted an SNK for their platform, they would have to settle for the company's leftovers that weren't fortunate enough to get ported to Nintendo's console, and Time Soldiers is one such example. Following the intro, you get your assignment on the first comrade to rescue, as well as what time period you might find them in. So you zap through what I'm guessing is the time portal, but oddly enough, you're not sent directly to that level as you might expect. Instead, you're dropped into a completely different era, and as it turns out, you have to work your way to the correct time period by surviving your current settings until you can make another time jump. Much like any 1980s overhead shooter, you steadily march northward, with occasional trips eastward or westward, while using your shoulder-mounted rifle to mow down the indigenous hostile forces constantly firing projectiles at you. Of course, certain slain baddies will drop power-ups, including powerful secondary arms with limited ammunition to aid you. As usual, just one hit costs you a life, though you immediately respawn at the spot you died at, with your special weapon intact if you are fortunate enough to collect one. After some time, a mid-level boss will appear that must be defeated to progress in your mission. Successfully dispatch the mid-boss and the time portal will appear, giving you the option to continue in the current stage or leap to another time period, hoping it's the correct one. If not, it's another battle for survival until you can defeat another mid-boss and take another trip through the time portal. Unfortunately, the back and forth level jumping is mainly there to trick you into thinking Time Soldiers contains more depth than it truly does. The fact is, all you do in this card is run around on foot cutting down the foes that cross your path with your weapon, and that's it. Just standard run and gun gameplay that's been done many times before. The mostly vanilla action also unfolds at a surprisingly mellow pace for a shooter, with enemies appearing sporadically and not showing a lot of aggression towards you. More often than not, they'll merely throw a couple of projectiles at you before heading off on their merry way. Don't look for any special features or exciting touches to offer any change of pace either, not even any unique challenges found in each of the 5 time zones. At least Ikari Warriors lets you take control of a tank and go nuts. You don't get anything like that in this card, which can become monotonous and dull before too long. That's not to say Time Soldiers is any pushover. In fact, it's just as hard as the arcade version, with much of the difficulty coming from simply dealing with the controls. It was obviously a tall order for the Master System version to make up for the lack of the coin-op's rotary joystick, yet the card doesn't do much to accomplish that task. You have to constantly walk towards your target just to shoot at them in any specific direction, especially diagonally, all while compensating for your rifle being mounted on your right shoulder. As a result, you can't shoot at anything with any real precision and will most likely get hit before you can take out your target. Not to mention your normal pea shooter barely seems to do any noticeable damage to your foes. Having a partner at your side definitely helps alleviate some of the frustration and even offers a few opportunities to employ some strategy. Not surprisingly, the presentation can't match up to the arcade version due to the Master System's limitations, but the audio and visuals don't do much to shine on their own merits either. All the landscapes look rather plain with nothing to catch your eye, and most of the sprites are poorly rendered. Sometimes you can't even tell what an enemy is actually supposed to be. At least the bosses you face during the course of your mission look somewhat decent. And as just about the norm for Master System releases of this time, the action is once again backed up by a lackluster, almost ear-piercing soundtrack and sound effects that are just there. Once you finally reach the end of your intended time period, you're naturally tasked with defeating the big boss of the level. As is usually the standard, if you have a special weapon on hand you can make quick work of them, otherwise these battles can drag on and even cost you a few lives as you struggle to take them out. Best, the boss and your comrade is freed from his spherical prison. Then you get a moment to bask in your accomplishment before heading on another jaunt through the ages for your next buddy to rescue. Once all 5 comrades are saved, you then get the chance to confront Garland himself in the final showdown. Though good luck reaching the end of the game with your scant amount of available lives. Be aware you can't continue twice if you rapidly push the fire button upon your last guy aspiring, though it might not help very much. In closing, Time Soldiers isn't the worst commando-style shoot-'em-up out there. It just comes off as dull and frustrating and doesn't offer anything that hasn't been done in better console shooters of its vintage. Even the always enjoyable 2-player co-op fails to inject enough fun to make this cart really worth your time. It also falls flat as an arcade conversion as it feels too watered down compared to its coin-op parent. Granted, this Master System port was the only home console version of Time Soldiers for the longest time, yet as we've seen quite a few times on this series, just about all arcade ports on the older platforms have been rendered obsolete by better, more readily available ways to experience the original version, and Time Soldiers is no exception. Not only was an emulation of the coin-op released as a downloadable title on the PlayStation Network in 2012, it also recently appeared on the current platforms as part of SNK's 40th Anniversary Collection. Once again, why settle for the neutered Master System port when fans of the coin-op can relive the game in all its chaotic glory without any limitations or compromises? Any way you slice it, Time Soldiers is yet another Master System disappointment, and not really worth checking out as there are better ways to satisfy your shooter cravings.